the second half of the preseason for the Canucks. Game 4 of 6 as they take on the Phoenix Coyotes, who they'll meet 5 times in the regular season. Starting goalies brought to you by Tim Hortons, Canada's favorite coffee. Thomas Greiss has found a new home in Phoenix after time in San Jose. Last year backing up Antti Niemi. This year it figures to be Mike Smith. And Roberto Luongo looking to bounce back from his only preseason appearance. 4 goals against in 40 minutes work on 18 shots against Edmonton. And he'll be Vancouver's #1 this year. There's Newell Brown, assistant coach of the Canucks for a few years, found a new home in Phoenix in the offseason, and he'll be in charge of the power play down in the desert. Jannik Hansen lines up alongside the Sedins for this one, and they start this hockey game. And an early chance for Daniel Sedin, tipping one on goal, and what a stop by Greiss after Keith Yandle put the puck right onto the stick of Daniel Sedin.
And you can see Keith Yandle came over and tapped his goaltender in the pads right away. Oh, what a pass that was. And Thomas Greiss very alert on this play. Expect it when you leave it. Look at Greiss. He's ready. He's set, and when it's tipped by Daniel Sedin, Greiss is there to make the save.
Alex Burrows had a goal in a game last season, 6 seconds in against Detroit, and that would have rivaled the Burrows goal. On the resumption of play, the Coyotes work the puck down into the Canucks here. Here's a centering pass for Vermette. That's broken up, and the Canucks clear the puck to center. Hansen chops it forward and heads to the Canucks bench. Derek Morris back to the puck. Yandle throws it across. Here's Chris Brown, who's off to a wonderful start in the preseason. Burrows runs into him. Burrows and Higgins have come onto the ice. Henrik Sedin stays out. Ryan Kessel will take his spot once the Canuck captain gets to the players' bench. Chris Tanev working to hold the puck in the Phoenix zone. But the Coyotes get it across to Morris. He tried to throw it up the middle, blocked by Higgins. Now the puck's out to center and tipped into the Vancouver zone. Rob Klinkhammer chasing in on Alex Edler, who banks the puck around for Tanev out of his reach. Brown behind the net for Klinkhammer. Here's Kyle Chipchura with a sharp angle shot that went off a stick. Went over the glass in the corner to the right of Roberto Luongo.
We saw John Tortorella behind the bench Saturday night in Edmonton after being up in the press box evaluating last week. He said it was very important for him to get the personality of the team from being behind the bench. You can sit upstairs and evaluate and see how the guys are playing, but to get the temperament of the players themselves, you have to be right there. And he said it was important for him to get down behind the bench again.
Brad Richardson out for this defensive zone draw against Martin Hanzal. Ron Rhodey with the drop of the puck. Andrew Alberts takes a hit in the corner as he tips the puck around for Mike Santorelli. Santorelli to center. Here's the Canucks with a 2-on-1. Richardson in with Shinkarik, and the pass for the rookie was tipped away, and the Coyotes take control of the puck. Mike Santorelli, 25 for Vancouver, playing the wing in this hockey game after a strong showing in Edmonton. Alberts bumps Hanzal. Puck comes to the right point. David Rundblad. He tries a wrist shot blocked by Richardson. Oliver Ekman-Larsson with a shot that hit the outside of the post on the stick side on Luongo. Looked like he picked it up late. Richardson hooks the puck to an open side. Yannick Weber's after it. He tips it down to the Phoenix blue line. David Schlemko back for the puck. He frees it up for Rundblad. 2 minutes in, no score. Canucks with the only shot. It came mere seconds in on a turnover from Yandle to Daniel Sedin. Gilbert Brulé onto the ice for Phoenix. Hoping a second stop with the Coyotes might be what he needs to resurrect his career. Jason Garrison chases back for a loose puck. Leaves for Kevin Bieksa. Around for Brendan Gaunce. Can't clear past Brulé. Lori Korpikoski battles for the puck behind the Vancouver goal. Bieksa gets it around for Bo Horvat. The 18-year-old turns and makes a accurate pass to Jason Garrison. Here's Sestito back to Garrison. Quick wrist shot. An easy blocker save for Greiss. Gaunce from behind the net. Gaunce leaves for Sestito. Being watched by Miele. Sestito, strip of the puck. And it's brought to center by Andy Miele. He took down Bieksa. Upended it. Brulé's in front with a shot, and reaching in to tip it over the glass was Jason Garrison.
Roberto Luongo didn't have much luck in his last start against the Edmonton Oilers. A couple of bounces and screen shots. Here's another one. Martin Hanzal skates through the crease, and I think Roberto got a little piece of that before it hit the outside of the post. Miele got away with one there. The old push behind the kneecap of Kevin Bieksa brought him down. No tripping call.
Here's Dave Moss trying to cut in front. Don't forget to add Sportsnet Murph to your follow list.
Had lots of Twitter followers after the Edmonton game last week. The Oilers fans very pleased with our broadcast.
They love you.
Where's Louis and Kevin Quinn?
They just have a funny way of showing it sometimes. Luongo covers that one up with Antoine Vermette in the neighborhood. Still no score, 3.5 minutes into the first.
Coyotes had 6 guys that played every game last year. Antoine Vermette was one of them, and Dave Tippett looks on. Keith Yandel was another one. Ekman Larsson was another one. They had their key guys all stay healthy, and in the shortened season, it helped. But this year, more stability. What's their motto this year?
Here to stay.
Yes, here to stay. The new ownership.
Ryan Kessler with a pass just out of the reach of Burrows. He chases after the puck on Ekman Larsson. Chipchura picks it up. Higgins closes the gap quickly. The puck out to center, wristed back in by Weber. Ekman Larsson to Rundblad. Hard pass ahead. Brown tied to tip the puck through. Chipchura is onto it for Phoenix. He's got an open man in front. There's the pass. Ekman Larsson cuts wide. Wrist shot. Stopped by Luongo a bit awkwardly, but he made the save. Chipchura bobbled the puck at the blue line, and the Coyotes have to regroup at center. Klinkhammer tips it in. Starts a Phoenix change as Luongo comes out of the net. He leaves for Yannick Weber. He beats a couple of Coyotes and skates to center. Puck knocked off his stick, and here comes Hansel the other way, moving in on Andrew Alberts. Hansel with a wrist shot, and Luongo looked confident making that blocker save. Long shot from the line. That was blocked by Alberts. He gloves the puck to Shinkarik, who's able to tip it out to center. Again, the Coyotes play the puck in, and Alberts is back to pick it up. Gives it away. Oh, almost gave it away. Got ahead of myself there, but lurking in front was Max Domi and almost had a chance. Vrbata steps around Richardson. Radim Vrbata centers, intercepted by Bieksa. And he gets the puck ahead. Unable to move it out with Shinkarik. Richardson tips it free, and he'll settle the puck in his own zone. 5 minutes in, no score. And Shinkarik pressured by Zubair Brule. Puck comes free to Bieksa. Andrew Alberts will like to get off on a change, and he will as the Canucks tip the puck down to the Phoenix blue line. Shots 2 apiece. Although it feels like Phoenix has tested Luongo a little bit more. Sestito back for a loose puck, plays it free to the far side, and Bieksa's onto it for the Canucks. Throws it up the middle. Miele knocked it down, but here comes Bo Horvat. Horvat plays chip and charge around Yandel. Brule comes back to throw a check. Sestito fishing for the puck. It comes into the corner to Gauntz. Throws it in front. Horvat, quick shot. Stopped by Greiss. He went to his knees and blocked the puck. Morris is onto it for Phoenix. Sestito with a hard hit on him. Tanev centers. Kicked out. Rebound. Gauntz is stopped by Greiss. Brendan Gauntz looking for his third of the preseason, but Greiss got the better from there. Both teams changing as Tanev throws one forward. Both Edler and Gauntz let it go, but icing is waved off. Here's Henrik Sedin for the Canucks. Behind the net to Daniel. Daniel to Henrik again. He's checked by Ekman Larsson, who clears the puck past Bieksa and out to center. 6.5 minutes gone in the first, no score. Here comes Jannik Hansen with a burst at center. In on the right wing, a wrist shot, gloved by Greiss. He'll hang on. And we'll step aside from this preseason contest. Canucks and the Coyotes, you're watching it live on Sportsnet Pacific.
We talked about learning the systems. One of them is a hard forecheck. Here's the chip. Bo Horvat goes in, and look at where all 3 forwards are. In behind the net, hard on the forecheck. That's what John Tortorella wants. Get in, control the puck, get a chance. Horvat has the original chance, and then Brendan Gauntz gets one on a rebound, and Thomas Greiss makes a good save.
Sedin's and Hansen out for this offensive zone face-up. Henrik Sedin onto the puck behind the net. Try to reverse with a centering pass, intercepting is Rundblad. Covering for Kevin Bieksa is Daniel Sedin. Wrist shot deflected through by Henrik Sedin, stopped by Greiss, and he covers with Hansen looking for a loose puck. But the Sedin brothers connect there on the redirect from the high slot.
And that shallow net, we saw Henrik Sedin try that back pass to Jannik Hansen. And with the shallower nets, that's going to be more effective. Tip in try. Thomas Greiss has been very good here early. Only played 6 games as Antti Niemi was a Vezina candidate last year. Jason LaBarbera moved to Edmonton.
Second preseason appearance for Greiss, who stopped all 15 shots he faced in a partial game earlier. And he stopped all 6 so far in this one. Couple of collisions inside the Vancouver blue line. Now Klinkhammer shoots the puck in from the right side. Luongo out to cut it off. Andrew Albert's under pressure. Puck comes free to Chris Higgins. He finds Burrows, tried to slide it through for Weber, who was jumping up. Now Higgins is onto the puck. Higgins pressuring the defense, and stepping up to check him was Derek Morris. Kessler picks up the loose puck, trying to get it through to Burrows behind the net. That was picked off by Chipchura. Kessler keeps after the puck, throws it in front, out of the reach of Higgins. And Brown able to move the puck out to neutral ice. Alberts takes a hard hit and makes the play to Higgins, who gets the puck into the Phoenix zone. Richardson another forecheck, centering pass, a deep to the backhand by Santorelli, and Greiss winds up with the puck. Mike Santorelli off the bench right to the net and had a good chance in front.
Derek Morris was there, but Santorelli had the chance, and he couldn't get it wide enough to get it by Thomas Greiss. There's a change. Mike Santorelli getting up into the play. Good forecheck. He's the second man. He's laid right down the middle. Goes to the backhand. Derek Morris is there, and Thomas Greiss makes the save.
Richardson on the face-off against Hansel. And they're going to wave Martin Hansel out. Radim Vrbata moves in to take the draw. Richardson trying to get after the puck in the corner. Tanev holds it in. Richardson bodied along the boards. And Vrbata slides the puck to center. Santorelli takes it away for Vancouver. Chris Tanev ahead for Hunter Shinkaruk. Puck slides past him deep into the Phoenix zone. Stone is after it. Around for Vrbata. He was pressured by Edler. Santorelli after the loose puck. Checked by Schlemko, but Shinkaruk keeps after it. Even while tackled to the ice, he was able to free it up for a teammate. Coyotes wind up with the puck though, and here they come to center. Vrbata put one in the middle. That was broken up by the long reach of Alex Edler, and Brad Richardson has the puck. 8.5 minutes into a scoreless first. Hunter Shinkaruk at the end of his shift backhands the puck forward. Didn't get it deep though, and Brule skates back the other way. Lost the puck in his feet, and Kevin Bieksa is able to tip it out. Jason Garrison having trouble with that puck. Here's a sharp angle shot on Luongo. He held it out. Garrison makes a pass up the middle of Sestito, who relays to Bo Horvat. Checked by Miele. Horvat goes after the puck again. It comes free to Brule. And the Coyotes with a couple of tight passes get out to center. Here's Miele moving in. Drop feed. Brule with a shot wide of the goal. Puck comes in front. Luongo was able to block it. And Jason Garrison takes control for Vancouver. Sestito with a long pass to an open wing. Back for the puck is Ekman Larsson. He banks the puck into Vancouver territory. Icing waved off. Alberts goes back. Can't get it by Vermette. Jannik Hansen was fighting for the puck. Alberts after it. Works it free to Yannick Weber. Here's Daniel Sedin. Rink wide pass to Henrik. Took it off his skate. Hansen going to the net. Henrik centers for Hansen. He couldn't make contact. Slap pass in front. And no tip, unfortunately for the Canucks. Now Daniel Sedin from behind the net comes up front of the backhand. Threw it to the crease. That's taken away by Phoenix. Daniel holds the puck in with a pass to Henrik. Back for Daniel, but it's off his skate and out to center. Henrik Sedin once more. Slides one for Daniel. Comes back to Henrik. He shoots it in for Hansen. Daniel goes to the front. Jannik Hansen looking there. Henrik in deep for Daniel. Morris is on him. Daniel Sedin back to Chris Tanev. Here's Edler taking a look. Wrist shot, and that hit Hansen in front, I think. Puck stayed out. The Coyotes clear the zone. Edler with a quick turn inside his line. Pass for Daniel Sedin, who's going to head to the bench, but not before he flips one forward, intended for Kessler. Winding up with the puck is Chris Tannen. In the second half of the first period, still no score. The Canucks and the Phoenix Coyotes. Vancouver won the season series 2-1 last year, and the Phoenix Coyotes called for icing for a face-off in the Phoenix zone.
Well, with the suspensions, 3 young guys get to play. Hunter Shinkarik, good on the forecheck, controlling the puck along the boards. You wonder about how long these guys will stay around. And would you think that they'd get the 9-game tryout before they have to be sent back?
You would think that what's transpired, particularly as it pertains to Kassian and David Booth, depending how long he's out, that becomes more of a palatable option. Maybe not the best case scenario, but an option nonetheless. Here's Alex Burrows with a centering pass. Higgins couldn't get to it. Bieksa over to Edler with a shot, and that was blocked in front. Kessler trying to get one through, still after the puck. Kessler back to Edler. He shoots another block, and that fell Klinkhammer. Here's Ryan Kessler once more. Kevin Bieksa cutting in. Bieksa shoots, and that was stopped by Thomas Greiss. Klinkhammer without his stick, trying to glove the puck out. Now kicks it back towards Schlemko, who clears the puck out.
Klinkhammer limps to the bench.
Here's a chance for the Coyotes. Max Domi had Hansel in front but couldn't settle the puck. And the Canucks work it out to Hunter Shinkarik. Bieksa joins the rush. Pass in front for him is broken up. And now the Coyotes will try to take advantage. Urbana in on the right wing. Slides one in front. Hansel dishes off. Now here's a chance. Oh, what a stop by Luongo. And then another one off Urbana. He stopped Ekman Larsson and then Urbana to keep it a scoreless game. And Luongo might be shaken up. 2 big stops for Roberto Luongo. He might be nursing a little something after that work. He'll try to shake it off after stopping 2 great chances for the Coyotes in front.
Roberto Luongo's in the bench. Mike Bernstein had the ice bag during the break on Roberto's thumb or hand. What a great save on the original shot, comes through, and then he's stretched out, and there's a melee with the sticks, and I think one of the sticks catches his glove hand. His own guys, there's a couple of Coyotes in there, Brad Richardson's in there, and Roberto goes to the bench and had it tended to during our timeout.
Saw the second chance actually hit the post. That's why when people ask me, do you like TV better or radio? See, on radio,
that would have been,
that was 2 great saves.
Save.
But the replay shows it was a great save in a post. Howdy on the defensive here as Santorelli rushes out. Sends one towards Richardson. Puck played around. Weber holds it into the right corner. Here's Richardson working on Rundblad. 3 Canucks in behind the goal again. Santorelli trying to free up the puck. Richardson comes up with it. Cycles for Santorelli. Shinkarik, the 3rd member of this forward unit. Puck taken away by Rundblad, who stops to find some room, shovels the puck towards Domi, but he can't get it out. Good forecheck for the Canucks. Richardson battling Hansel for the puck. Domi comes up with it and moves it out to center. Martin Hansel, poke check by Bieksa. Onto the ice is Brule, who gets around Bieksa. Almost put himself offside, but now the Coyotes send the puck in. Miele being watched by Horvat, who knocks him down. Under 7 minutes to go in a scoreless first period, and Andrew Alberts picks up the puck. Throws it up the middle, comes right back to him, so Alberts skates some more. Bobbled into the Phoenix blue line. And the Coyotes retake possession in their own zone. There's a puck off the stick of Brendan Gaunce, and it goes over the glass for a whistle.
Hockey fans, please welcome.
We've seen a more aggressive forecheck by the Canucks here in this first period, and John, you mentioned the 3 guys behind the goal line. That's happened a few times. That's one of the John Tortorella systems. Try to play in the offensive zone more often.
Pass to the side. between now and tomorrow what kind of lineup he'll dress against the San Jose Sharks tomorrow night. Here's a race for the puck, and Garrison first to the dot, so it's an icing call, and we'll check in with Murph.
John, we got some baseball on the network tomorrow. Dodgers versus San Fran, West Coast game starting 7 o'clock in the Pacific region on Sportsnet 1.
We'll be in the neighborhood. Can we get to the first inning and then watch the first inning and somehow get to the Shark Tank?
A couple of teams had a chance to clinch today, didn't they?
Henrik Sedin wins a face-off. Chris Tanev elects to throw the puck to the far corner. Daniel Sedin lays for him. He finds Daniel, throws one in front, comes right through to Tanev at the left point. Tanev for Hansen. Rings one around. Here's Henrik Sedin. Daniel trying to give him a passing option. Winds up with the puck in the corner. Frees it up for Henrik. Henrik to Edlund. Long shot deflected by Hansen. Loose puck at the side. There's a penalty coming up to Phoenix. Delayed call. It's against the Canucks.
Goaltender interference.
A Vancouver penalty as Greiss must have been bumped on that scoring opportunity. Hansen with the tip, but Daniel Sedin is heading for two.
For the first time in over a decade, the Canucks will host every team in the NHL on home ice. Tickets still available for the home opener Saturday, October 5th versus the Oilers. Could be a good one. Tuesday, October 8th versus Corey Schneider and the Devils. Visit Canucks.com/tickets for all home game availability.
Daniel Sedin into the goaltender, and Derek Morris gives him a shove. That was one of those borderline.
I wonder if he called it for the original cruise through or the collision that Morris seemed to create. In any event, it's a power play, and Luongo forced to make an early stop off Mikkel Bodker. Canucks come up with the puck and send it down the ice. Coyotes off to a hot start in the preseason with a power play. They're 6 for 19. After struggling with the man advantage a year ago. Burroughs trying to get the puck out. It was held in. Kessler has an opportunity, and with one hand on the stick, he's able to poke the puck to center. 45 seconds gone in the penalty to Daniel Sedin. Bodker to Yandel. Back to Bodker. Fell down as he hit the blue line, and he's shaken up. He might have caught a stick on the way down. And he'll head to the Phoenix bench after that mishap at the Vancouver blue line. Chris Higgins doing some good work up ice, killing time behind the Phoenix goal, and that draws a reaction from the crowd. Higgins continues to fight for the puck. Works it free to Tanev. There's Bodker being checked out as the puck winds up behind the Phoenix goal.
He ran into Henrik Sedin's stick, lost his footing.
Ekman Larson. That one deflects off Domi into the Vancouver zone. Hansel sends it around for Vrbata. 30 seconds to go on the penalty to Daniel Sedin. Richardson up with the puck. Hounded from behind by Vrbata, but gets it to Santorelli, and here's Tanev. Killing more time by playing the puck in behind the Phoenix goal. 10 seconds to go in the Phoenix power play. There's 4 minutes left in the first period. A scoreless tie. Kyle Chipchura is it through to Brown on the backhand, being checked by Alberts. He slid it wide. Weber's onto the puck. Lees for Alberts. Daniel Sedin out of the box. And the Canucks with a successful penalty kill. Here's Daniel in with the puck on the right wing. Lees for Henrik. Henrik Sedin shoots, stop, rebound, kick towards the goal. Weber after it, tried to send it for Hansen. Still loose, and Greiss reaches out and grabs the puck after the Canucks, right after the penalty kill, went on the attack.
Well, Henrik and Daniel have had a very good first period in this game, and Daniel Sedin out of the penalty box gives it to his brother. The rebound comes out. Anik Weber just can't get it in front as Thomas Greiss does a nice job. Michael Bodker's on the way down. Henrik Sedin's going for the puck. Catches Bodker in the chin.
Face off of the Phoenix zone with 3.5 minutes to go in the first. Pucking loose to Higgins, he scores! Right off the draw, a rolling puck, and Chris Higgins makes it 1-0.
Well, a scrambled face-off. This wasn't even a clean win for Ryan Kessler. I assume Kessler will get the only assist on this, John, and you can see it's a scramble draw. And Higgins jumps in. Maybe Alex Burrows, because he touched it. It's rolling. Burrows is there. Higgins comes in and sneaks it by Thomas Greiss.
16:29, the time of the opening goal. Yannick Weber in his own zone around for Burrows. Can't move it out. Yandel slaps one wide. Klinkhammer after the puck to the side of the goal. Falls down behind him. And Kessler's on the loose puck. Higgins flips it out to center. Falls perfectly at the feet of Burrows. Kessler's in front. Burrows cutting in. Centers. Kessler stopped by Greiss. Just the one assist to Kessler on the Higgins goal. And he almost had a goal to go with his assist on that setup from Burrows. Now Higgins is in again, throwing one in front, and there'll be a penalty as Schlemko took down Bieksa going to the net. So Kevin Bieksa getting involved in the offense, and he puts Vancouver on the power play.
Now Chris Higgins does the right thing as the Canucks load to one side on this faceoff. He's in back. Alex Burrows cuts in, and Higgins just jumps in on that loose puck, snaps it by Ryan Kessler. Beautiful pass by Alex Burrows, feeding Ryan Kessler, and the goaltender Greiss again with a good save. And Schlemko, interference or hooking, either or, and I think they called it hooking.
Power play Canucks still looking for their first goal of the preseason with a man advantage. They're 0 for 10. Here's a shot from Garrison, loose in front, cleared by the Coyotes. And shot down the ice by Bodker. Here's Alex Edler. Finds Henrik Sedin ahead to Daniel Sedin. Flip one in front for Kessler. Comes back. Garrison. Wrist shot blocked by Ekman Larsson. John Tortorella saying he's a fan of Jason Garrison's shoot first mentality, but he couldn't get that one through. Edler rushes out. Drops for Henrik Sedin. Kessler in on over the Phoenix line. Gets by Yandel and shoots the puck around for Daniel Sedin. Daniel Sedin still with the puck. Banks it around for his brother. Henrik through the crease, knocked away by Greiss. Edler with a shot, kicked out. Kessler after the rebound. Henrik leaves for Daniel. Garrison stopped by Greiss as he went post to post. Here's Daniel Sedin to Henrik Sedin. Back to Edler. He shoots close. Saved by Greiss as he fought through the screen of Kessler and held onto that puck.
Thomas Greiss has been the first star of this first period. Power play looks very good. Good puck movement. Good shots. Greiss, good stick on this one as the pass is coming through to Daniel. Makes an excellent save on the first shot, then the rebound, and gets in position to make the save on the third one. And finally reaches around Ryan Kessler to stop the play.
The X with a long shot. Greiss never saw it, but it hit him. Hansen after the rebound, he scores! Wide open net for Jannik Hansen. It is 2-0.
The power play. Go to the net. Create some havoc. Shot and a rebound. Just get it through. Shot. Thomas Greiss can't find it. And Jannik Hansen's there with Alex Burrows. Hansen's the one who finds it first.
Second goal of the preseason for Jannik Hansen.
Well, that shows the importance of getting that shot from the point through. It wasn't very hard. It was just a little wrist shot, but when you've got traffic, it doesn't have to be hard.
Similar to a chance he had in Edmonton on Saturday when a puck got behind the Oiler goalie. But this time, Hansen able to find the open net. Hard hit at center by Alberts, and here's Santorelli risking one towards Shinkarik, but he couldn't reach the puck. Into the final minute of the first period, Canucks with a couple of lead goals. 2 minutes and 4 seconds apart, and they have a 2-0 lead. Rundblad ahead to Vrbata. Here's Ekman Larsson to Radim Vrbata, and he bangs the puck in over the Vancouver blue line. Henrik Sedin tips the puck into the Phoenix zone. The two defensemen, Bieksa and Garrison, get the assists on the Jannik Hansen goal, who's after the puck in the Phoenix zone. Henrik Sedin to Daniel Sedin, trying to bank the puck back to Garrison. That was knocked away, and Schlemko takes control for Phoenix. Puck clear to the line, held in by Daniel Sedin. He throws one in front. That hit the leg of Michael Stone. Now an attempted shot deflects to the left point, and that'll do it for the first period. Canucks with some late offense, and they'll take a 2-goal lead into the first intermission.
Remember the first exhibition game when the shots were so one-sided? Shots on goal, 17-8 in favor of the Canucks. Good pressure, and Roberto Luongo very good in net.
Well, we talked before the game about this being the strongest lineup the Canucks had iced, and that it would be best if it looked that way, and it has so far through 20 minutes. We'll hear from Jason Garrison with Dan Murphy. He had an assist on the 2-0 goal. But before that, our panel alongside Gary Volk. Here's Don Taylor after one period in Vancouver.
All right, thanks, Johnny. Don Taylor along with Gary Volk. That sound you're hearing, Vancouver hockey fans saying that's more like it. The Canucks came into this game with an 0-3 record in the preseason. They lead Phoenix after one period of play at Rogers Arena by a score of 2-0. Goals by Jannik Hansen and this man, Chris Higgins. Again, 2-0 Vancouver over Phoenix. Gary and I will be back with a recap in a minute.
Welcome back to Rogers Arena. Canucks taking on the Coyotes. Fourth of 6 preseason games for Vancouver, looking for that first preseason win. Off to a 2-0 start. Chris Higgins late in the first, 16:29. With his first of the preseason for Jannik Hansen scored in the power play. I lied. Garrison did get an assist, but Bieksa and Weber did in that period in which the Canucks outshot the Coyotes 17-8. John?
Well, Dan, suspension's obviously the talk around the Canucks today, and it's no question that Brendan Shanahan and his department have a thankless job at times, John, but it is a fine line between what draws a hearing and what doesn't, and you wonder if the Canucks have a bit of a beef with a hit in Game 1 of the preseason.
Well, Matt Pelech catches Andrew Alberts, and that's a little higher to me than this one by Dale Weiss on Taylor Hall. And Dale Weiss, and people say he's a repeat offender. He's not a repeat offender. He has that reputation, and it is Taylor Hall. Although Taylor Hall has been hit a few times like that because he goes down low. When he's pressured, he seems to lean down low. And Dale Weiss gets suspended for the exhibition series. So, you know,
You're smiling.
Well, I'm saying that it's not really that much of a punishment, although Dale Weiss is one of those players I'm sure he would like to play just to cement his position on this team. And yet, Pelech doesn't even register, and Andrew Alberts didn't go down or wasn't hurt on the play, but it was a similar hit for sure.
Alberts on the bench right now. It's Garrison and Bieksa are there, and around Bieksa's Bottler Deeks, and a puck rolled off the end of his stick as he tried to tuck it in past Luongo, and again the Canuck netminder shaken up on that collision. The early chance for Phoenix, but it stays 2-0 Canucks.
And Bodker is helping Roberto Luongo get back to his feet. Bodker is full speed on fresh ice. Goes right around Kevin Bieksa, and Bodker tries to go backhand, but he's in too tight. Loses it off the end. Roberto stayed right with him. And give Roberto credit because Bodker had to try and go around him. He had no play, and it's just the contact. Roberto looks like he's going to be all right now. Well, full speed, and Kevin Bieksa caught flat-footed at the blue line.
Dave Moss after the puck at center, checked by Daniel Sedin. Coyotes start out from their own zone. Derek Morris drops for Keith Yandel. Pass up the middle, deflected in by Antoine Vermette. Bieksa back for the puck. Vermette intercepts in the corner. Picking his way through traffic, passes to Yandel, over to Morris, slap shot, wide of the goal. There's a penalty coming up. Broken stick out there. You wonder if that might be a piece of evidence for a slashing call, as the Canucks are going to be shorthanded with Jason Garrison heading to the box.
Well, Antoine Vermette's stick gets chopped in half, and that's why Garrison's going on. Garrison comes down halfway, and the shaft splinters. I guess you can't say splinters now.
Shatters.
Shattered. Shattered.
I don't
It's
know.
going right in
I
half.
was trying to help you out.
Thank you. You're such a wordsmith.
Yes. Second power play for Phoenix. But not before they pick up what looks like splinters, John. I think you should have just stuck with what you were
Thank you.
saying. Attention to detail from linesman Lonnie Cameron, and now he's set to drop the puck as Von Rode gets rid of the evidence. Coyotes control off the draw. Rundblad at the blue line. Here's Bravado. Down low. Domi to Bravado. Rundblad. Other side, one-timer. Luongo sliding to his left, made the save on that shot from Ekman Larsson. Puck stays in the Vancouver zone. Hansel goes down in a battle with Edler, who picks up the puck, rings it around, and gets it down the ice. Burrows and Kessler head to the bench. Santorelli comes on up front along with Brad Richardson. Weber and Alberts have taken over on defense. Here's Hansel into the middle. Bravado dishes off. Rundblad centering. Hansel scores! Snuck it through the legs of Roberto Luongo, and on the power play, the Coyotes cut the lead in half.
A beautiful play by the Phoenix Coyotes entering the zone. Martin Hansel goes up the middle, and the quick pass is just tipped through Roberto Luongo. Martin Hansel's right in the middle. He's got lots of time, stick on the ice, and just tips it. Yannick Weber is there, but not close enough to stop Hansel from getting good wood on that one.
Minute 34, the time of the power play goal that gets the Coyotes to within one.
We haven't talked about the goalie's equipment, but Roberto's pads are only half an inch shorter. And the goal pads this year, some of the goalies, it's 2.5, 3 inches, but Roberto's, the 45% from his knee to his pelvis, his pads were only shortened by half an inch. I don't think it would have made any difference on that one.
Hansel with his first. Now here's a 2-on-1 for the Canucks. Santorelli with Weber. Santorelli in. He shoots off the blocker of Thomas Greiss. Santorelli gets the puck again. Mike Santorelli to the blue line. Andrew Alberts in around for Hunter Shinkaruk. Helping him out is Brad Richardson. Richardson falls down but gets the puck back to Alberts. Long wrist shot handled by Greiss. And he hangs on with Hunter Shinkaruk looking for a loose puck.
Hansel is first of the preseason score in the power play.
The power play on the rush, Martin Hansel does a nice job. Goes right down the middle and he gets the tip in. Yannick Weber gets too deep. Instead of stopping in the slot, he skated by the defensive area, and Hansel's able to tip it through Roberto Luongo.
Cole Horvat out for a face-off against Hansel. Gets it to Bieksa, now to Garrison, and that one hit a body on the way through. Sestito finds a loose puck down for Horvat, centering for Brendan Gaunce. That was broken up. And the Coyotes bring the puck to center. Hansel flips one to the far corner. Bieksa being pursued by Bravado. Gaunce tips the puck free, and Sestito tries to move it out. Tom Sestito checked just inside the blue line. Bieksa trying to move the pile. And the puck squirts free at center to Morris, who rips it in off the glass. Kevin Bieksa ahead to Brendan Gaunce. Overskated the puck at the Phoenix blue line, and back comes the other number 50, Antoine Vermette. And offside was Moss as Vermette cut to the middle. Murph.
We'll celebrate Canucks night every Thursday in October at Boston Pizza and enter to win a weekly Canucks jersey prize. Boston Pizza is the official sports bar of the Vancouver Canucks.
Was in Boston Pizza yesterday, as a matter of fact. Thin crust.
Breakfast.
Nachos. Very good nachos in Boston Pizza.
They had a mobile tent unit set up at the Canucks annual Jake Milford Golf Tournament. That was a nice, tasty surprise on the 17th tee.
That's what all your team won?
That's about it. Here's Alex Edler with a sharp angle shot. Rebound. Henrik Sedin trying to poke it home. And Greiss with the goal line stand. Henrik again. Behind the net for Hansen. Jannik Hansen to his knees. Back up. Nice pass. Edler. Wrist shot. Deflected wide. Edler moves down to the left point. Moss clears to the line. Hansen covering for the defenseman. Holds the puck in the zone. Here's Daniel Sedin to Henrik Sedin. Back to Daniel Sedin looking in front. Daniel still with the puck. Comes out of the corner. Flips one back for Tanev. And his pass for Edler is tipped out by David Moss. Here's Tanev. Pass to center. Picked off. Henrik gets the puck back though. Daniel to start a change. Tips it in behind the Phoenix goal. Runblad to Chipchura. Higgins gets a piece of him, but the puck gets through to Chris Brown. Canucks take it back, and Weber throws one forward. Here's Kessler in right side. Wrist shot and a shoulder save for Greiss. Kessler with a rising wrister trying to beat him stick side. Now Kessler steps into his man inside the blue line. A tripping call upcoming, however, as Chipchura went down, and I think Andrew Alberts is heading to the penalty box.
Thomas Greiss has been very good on Henrik Sedin. He makes the play in tight. Alex Edler throws it in. Henrik Sedin tried to draw to his backhand. Greiss using the stick in the Ryan Kessler. This is a good shot because not only does Greiss make the save, but he has to commit, and that rebound is sitting right there, but the Canucks can't get to it. Roberts is off for tripping.
Coyotes already have a power play goal in this game. They're 1 for 2. And the percentage still going up. 7 for 21 in the preseason. Even I can do that math. And a third opportunity here. A chance to tie the hockey game.
And with Mike Rivera, who's not in the lineup tonight, you know he's a power play specialist.
Santorelli to the line, couldn't move it out past Michael Stone, but following up is Jason Garrison, who risks the puck down the ice. Keith Yandel, 30 points in 48 games last year. It's a 51-point pace for Yandel on a full season. His career best was 59. Whoa! I don't think Luongo would have been ready for that one as Edler missed the pass back from Tanev, but no harm done, and Chris Tanev sends the puck down the ice. What was it you said about Greiss 6 seconds in?
Yes.
Expect it when you least expect
yes.
it? Verbata dumps the puck in. Max Domi sends it behind the goal. Edler steps into him. Puck gets by Edler, however. Domi comes out with it. To the left point to Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Right point, Runblad. Here's Verbata on the right wing. Back to Runblad, takes a look, fakes the shot, now passes to Ekman-Larsson. 30 seconds to go on the power play for Phoenix. Verbata top of the circle, wrist shot, Luongo the left pad. Stealing the puck is Henrik Sedin, couldn't move it out, but forcing the puck to center was Tanev. As Hansel was all alone in front, but they couldn't get the puck through to him. Dozen seconds to go on the Phoenix power play. And Domi risks the puck around to the near side. Tanev tying up Hansel. Hansen's there as well. Here's Alberts onto the ice. So Phoenix now 1 for 3 on the power play. 7 for 22 is math that's a little tough.
Yes.
21, I can do that.
21 you're all right.
7 for 22, a little tough. Here's Schlemko with a slap shot. Reaching out with a hand was Alberts to steer wide. Now he throws a hit on Moss. Higgins had his pass blocked, and the puck stays in the Vancouver zone. Edler and Tanev have been out there a while. They'll try to get off the ice, but Hansen can't move through center. The duo on defense is forced to stay on. Stone with a shot and a blocker save for Luongo. Hansen missed the puck. Tanev gets it. Finds Alberts. And Hansen finally able to gain center. Moves in over the Phoenix line. Backhand pass for Higgins. Winds up on the right wing boards. Higgins back to Bieksa. In deep for Bo Horvat. He shakes off a check. Centers for Higgins, and that was knocked away. Horvat feeds the line. Garrison down for Horvat. Spinning, trying to get away from Vermette. That didn't work. And here's Mikkel Boedker. Flipping the puck in. He'll head to the Phoenix bench. Bieksa checked by Brown behind the goal. Kevin Bieksa gets the puck back. Couldn't move it through the pile, but Horvat has it to the line, held in by Yandel. Puck loose on the far side. Garrison after it. Sestito there as well, but they can't move out past Klinkhammer. Here's Chipchura. Kyle Chipchura looking for room. Finds some. Passes to the right point. Morris with a wrist shot. Blocked by Sestito. And here comes Brendan Gaunce to center. Slid it from his own side. And that's icing. So the face-off will be in the Vancouver zone after we check in with Dan Murphy.
Well, we're getting down to the final stretch of the baseball season. Right now, the Blue Jays in a series with the Baltimore Orioles. You can catch that game tomorrow. Coverage beginning 3 o'clock Pacific time on Sportsnet East Ontario West and Pacific.
Couple power plays in this second period have really shifted the momentum of this hockey game. A lot of play in the Vancouver end of the ice, and there'll be more now as the Canucks are again called for icing with just over 8 minutes gone in the middle frame.
Phoenix is traditionally a good face-off team, and Antoine Vermette is one of the best in the league. He won 5 of 6 in the first period. John Tortorella looks on. Hansel's not bad. And Ribeiro is good. So those 3 centermen, once the regular season starts, Phoenix should be good in the draws again.
Oh, Bieksa hit the referee with that clearing attempt. He's all right. Puck deflected over the glass off Dennis LaRue. He'll shake it off, and we'll come back to Rogers Arena right after this.
Fox Football Daily covers football in a live, fast-paced format, combining up-to-the-minute news, highlights, features, and analysis. This one-hour show hosted by NFL Sunday broadcaster Kurt Menefee. Analysis and opinion from some of the biggest names to ever play the game, including Ronde Barber, Randy Moss, Brian O'Rourke, and Terry Bradshaw.
Do you watch that so that you can
Murph should.
knowledgeable picks on the weekend? You had such a great weekend this weekend. You must have been watching every day.
I was better than Dan. He got 4 right.
Well, that's good. 4 out of 15.
2-1 hockey in. Canucks on top. And bringing the puck to center is Hunter Shinkaruk. Defers to Yannick Weber, who's in on the left wing with a wrist shot. Fought up by Greiss. A rebound. Richardson tried to swipe it out of midair, but couldn't get good wood on it. Coyotes clear the zone. Alberts quickly to Shinkaruk. He risks one towards the middle. That was blocked by Miele. Rundblad for Phoenix. Reaching out to knock that pass away with Shinkaruk. Rundblad will try again. 9 minutes into the second. Pitching was Edler. He knocked down Brule. And Santorelli gets the puck at center. Comes free to Alex Edler. Brule, looking for revenge, forced the play offside as he tried to step up and hit Edler in a tit-for-tat move.
Brad Richardson going to the net. I like this play by Yannick Weber here. The defenseman try not to get caught shot in a rebound. And Brad Richardson's there. But it's on the backhand. Alex Edler on Gilbert Brule. Ended up turning at the last second.
Kyle Chipchura chasing after the puck with Ryan Kessler. Chipchura gets there, centers, and that was out of the reach of Rob Klinkhammer. Burrows clears the puck. Higgins gives chase on Chris Brown. Kessler checks Derek Morris. Burrows onto the puck, sends it to the near side. Waiting is Chris Tanev. Wrist shot, and that deflects to the corner off Morris. Brown to center, finds Chipchura, trying to return the puck, and it winds up on the stick of Alex Burrows. Here's Tanev flipping one to center. Morris takes possession inside his own line. Keith Yandle's his defense partner, and he passes back to Morris. Yandle steps up. He's got some speed through center. In front for Higgins, and tipping that one. Save off Greiss, and that was a hard shot off the stick. Trailing by just 1. towards the regular season. This is the 4th of 6 preseason games, and the Canucks play another one tomorrow in San Jose. They're trying to take this one home. They lead 2-1 halfway through.
Well, both teams have a more representative lineup, and you can feel it.
Yeah. Better pace, prettier plays.
First period, we had the Canucks 5 times had good forechecks where they had at least 2 guys behind the goal line. Sometimes here in the second, it's only happened once.
Here's Daniel Sedin skating deep center. Pass through for Henrik, hopped over his stick. Stone takes possession, clears the puck out, but that has too much on it. It'll be icing. And they'll face off in the Phoenix zone.
Now, do you think the Players Association will go for the hybrid ice?
I don't know. I'm getting mixed messages on that.
I am too. Some of the players and some of the ones I've talked to have said that they like the old icing rule where you have the race, the competitive nature, although you look at some of the injuries.
Well, even on the weekend, here's a Weber with a wrist shot and a stop by Grice. But just doing a game that involved Fadoon in Edmonton, and you think, is it really worth it? Here's Alex Burrows. Pass back, Weber with room, shoots, he scores! We've heard about the Yannick Weber slapper, and there you saw it to make it 3-1.
Well, a right-hand shot wearing number 6.
Yeah, sound familiar?
Yes. What a play by Alex Burrows, too. You don't just throw it into a maze in front of the net. Burrows waits. Now there's traffic in front. Gets it back to Weber. Martin Hansel goes out. Doesn't get there in time. And the good screen by Ryan Kessler. Weber up and over the shoulder of Thomas Greiss. And Kessler getting out of the way.
So back to a 2-goal lead for the Canucks. Tanev hooked as he cut in front of his own goal. He able to work the puck to Edler, who wrists it around for Brendan Gaunce. Gaunce gets the puck outside the line. Vermette turns in the neutral zone. Gaunce tried to poke the puck away from him. Now Bodker hit by Sestito, and Horvat winds up with the puck. Sestito trying to tip it over the Phoenix blue line. That was blocked by Ekman Larsson, who outmuscles Gaunce to tip the puck back and takes possession himself. Another icing call will bring the face-off down the ice with 8:05 to go in the second.
Well, and the shoot-first mentality that John Tortorella is trying to ingrain in his defenseman, Yannick Weber, with the big shot. Good play on the power play.
First goal of the preseason. He's got 3 points now. And tried another shot there, but couldn't get it through. Goal and an assist for Yannick Weber in this game. And interesting to note that John Tortorella, when asked about the makeup of his roster the other day, made it sound pretty clear that he's not in favor of carrying 8 defensemen. So you have to figure a battle for a right-hand spot back there. If it's only going to be 7, is down to Weber and Corrado. There's a high stick on Henrik Sedin and a penalty coming up to Kyle Chipchura.
And they come over to check Henrik. Kyle Chipchura is in on the forecheck, and with one hand on his stick, right underneath the visor of Henrik Sedin.
Canucks' second power play. They converted on their only other one, the Jannik Hansen rebound goal in the first period. Burrows takes the face-in as the Canucks send out a power play unit of Burrows, Higgins, and Hansen. Sedin's just finished a shift, so expect that duo and Ryan Kessler to come on for the latter part of the power play if this first group fails to score. Bieksa starts from behind the Vancouver goal. Passes through to Higgins, across to center, Chris Tanev. Oh. Look like Morris got a leg out, tripped Tanev up. Play goes on. Hansen after a loose puck on Yandel. Burrows tips it free for Higgins in the corner. He runs into a couple of Coyotes. Klinkhammer after the puck. Taken down, and that'll take Vancouver off the power play. Alex Burrows will head to the box, and they'll play 4-on-4 for a minute 15.
Well, one of the things about your power play is the little battles along the boards. You have to be hard on the puck. And the Canucks here, they're the same number of players and out-battled than Chris Burrows. Well, there's the leg of Derek Morris catching Chris Tanev. Tanev didn't like it.
Sedin's come out in the 4-on-4. With the face-off to the right of Luongo. Coyotes. Brule after the puck. Passes over. Ekman Larson with room. Settles it. Shoots it. And Luongo got the right pad and blocker out. Edler couldn't find that puck as it was slid towards him by Garrison. Now Garrison tries again. Daniel Sedin couldn't come up with it. Rundblad to the near side. Brule checked by Garrison, who gloves the puck to the line, but held in by Gilbert Brule. Sprawling was Edler to block a centering pass. Now Luongo tips one away from the crease area. Coyotes hold the puck in. Rundblad bodied by Henrik Sedin. Daniel picks up the puck and gets it out to center. Fighting off the check of Ekman Larson, he passes back to Edler. 6 minutes to go in the second. Canucks leading Phoenix 3-1. Coyotes with too many. Play goes on as the fans holler at the officials. Bodker coming onto the ice had that puck hit him. Oh, that pass hit Kessler, intercepted by Bodker off the post. Beat Luongo glove side, but rang it off the iron, and it's still a 2-goal lead for the Canucks. Here's Yandel. Coyotes on the power play for another 30 seconds. With Burrows serving the remainder of his tripping line. Bodker can't hold the line, and they'll have to regroup in their own zone. All four Canucks trying to change, and they're able to. 15 seconds to go in the penalty to Alex Burrows. There's a lead pass. Falling down was Domi, but he's back up. Luongo looks behind him, but he's got the puck. Domi trying to sneak it between the pads, and Roberto Luongo makes the save.
Michael Bodker gets his chance. You hate it when you're a penalty killer and you're just trying to make a simple play, and that's what Chris Higgins trying to do, but he hit Ryan Kessler's stick, and Bodker rattles it off the post. Look at Max Domi take this pass. Knocks it down and creates a chance for himself, and that just shows the kind of skills he has.
Here he is again. Max Domi coming up front with a wrist shot, missed on the short side, and that puck ricochets all the way out to center. Which does it for the Burrows penalty. Phoenix now 1 for 4 on the power play. Still trailing 3-1. Here's Domi again. Centering pass. Vrbata checked by Alberts. Now Domi follows up, and Luongo stops him on the short side. Vrbata to the net. Luongo stopped that, and Shinkarik picks up the loose puck. Out to center for Richardson. Morris sends that the other way. Hansel ahead to Domi, who's been prominent in the last few minutes. Hansel to Vrbata. Here's Domi taking a swipe of the puck on the backhand. Clearing is Santorelli. Shinkarik can't catch up at center. Richardson will try. He's hit by Hansel, who picks up the puck for Phoenix. 4 minutes remaining in the second period. Luongo out of his net. Passes to the side for Alex Edler. He dumps the puck back for Yannick Weber. Tom Sestito back to Edler. Up ahead, here comes Bo Horvat. 4 Canucks to the Phoenix line. Horvat trying to find Weber, who's got to hustle back now as Chipchura sends the puck ahead to Klinkhammer. Chipchura follows on. He's got Korpikoski in front, and the puck came back to Chipchura, who shot it wide of the goal. Horvat can't get it out. Put in front, and that hit Chipchura looking for the deflection. Centered through the crease. Here's Ekman Larson. Sestito checks him. Dumps the puck back for Edler. He's able to step around his man and get the puck back to Tom Sestito, who throws it to Yannick Weber. Weber to Gauntz. He backhands the puck deep into Phoenix territory. Horvat collects in the corner. Cole Horvat behind the net for Sestito. He's checked, but is able to poke the puck to Horvat. Back to the line. Here's Bieksa. Slap shot blocked. Chipchura clears the puck ahead. Klinkhammer can't get it by Bieksa. But Ekman Larsson's able to lift it high and down into the Vancouver zone. Under 3 minutes to go in the second. Keith Yandel. Rink wide pass. Bodker checked by Hansen. He tries to go wide on Morris and does. He's got Daniel Sedin in front, and the pass went off Yandel and just wide of the goal. Henrik Sedin. Back pass at center, picked off. Coyotes deep in their own end. Trying to contend with the Canuck forecheck and the official who's in the middle of things. Henrik Sedin with a shot wide of the goal. Here's Garrison to the left point. Quickly down to Hansen. Behind the net for Henrik. He missed the puck. Bieksa moves down for the right point. Henrik along the boards. Hansen after the puck in the corner. Vermette moves it forward. Held in by Bieksa, who gloves it towards the front. Chases after the puck. It comes to the line to Garrison. Into the corner for Henrik Sedin. Under 2 minutes to go in the second period. Morris went down under the check of Daniel Sedin, who pokes the puck in front while prone on the ice. And the Coyotes able to intercept and get it out. No icing as Bieksa goes back. Garrison for Burrows out of his reach. Nieli flips the puck into the Vancouver zone with 90 seconds remaining in the second period. Lori Korpikoski trying to bull his way in front. Passes to the line. Schlemko at the left point. Wrist shot. Bad hit Garrison. And Burrows able to slide the puck to center to Chris Higgins. 3 Canucks into the Phoenix zone. Higgins centers. Burrows to the net. Stopped by Greiss. Thought he might pull it to the backhand, but he tried to go over the short side shoulder. Greiss with the save, and the Canucks still on top by 2.
Get your official Canucks calendar at your local PharmaSave, available October 1st. It includes an exclusive Canucks photo book. It's only $6.99 with partial proceeds benefiting the Canucks for Kids Fund in support of Canuck Place. The official Canucks calendar, exclusively at PharmaSave while supplies last.
One of the things we talked about was chemistry. Look at this backhand pass, Chris Higgins to Alex Burrows. And that was one of the keys to the game. Get some chemistry in the lines, and that was a beautiful play, Chris Higgins to Alex Burrows.
Brad Richardson out for this face-off against Martin Hanzal. Richardson wins it to Andrew Alberts. Here's Mike Santorelli.
Last minute of play in the
Final minute, second period. Battle for the puck continues deep in the Phoenix zone. Puck comes through to Schlemko, and he's able to get it off the boards and out. Brad Richardson ahead to Mike Santorelli. Did well to pick up that pass and spin away from his check. He sends the puck in deep. Shinkaruk staples Schlemko to the boards. Schlemko, chicken wing on the stick of Shinkaruk, hoping to draw a penalty. Play goes on. Here's Yannick Weber. Up to Brad Richardson. He tips the puck in with 20 seconds to go in the second period. Out with the puck is Max Domi. Rabada takes his pass. Thought time was running on further than it was. Tried a long shot from center. And that sailed high and wide. Canucks break back with a couple seconds left. Daniel Sedin needs to shoot it, try to move, and that'll do it. Teams trading goals here in the second. Hanzal for Phoenix before Yannick Weber got his first as a Canuck to make it 3-1.
Well, one of our keys to the game was learn the system, and in the first period, the Canucks really were able to get the forecheck going. Not so much in the second period as Phoenix was able to carry the play a little more.
Alex Burrows with an assist on the Weber goal. Had a great chance late to make it 4-1 Canucks, but Burrows will be speaking with our Dan Murphy in just a few moments. But before we hear from Murph and Alex, let's hear from Don and Gary. Falk and Taylor. Take it away, Don.
Thank you, Shorthouse and Garrett. Yes, Canucks up 3-1 on Phoenix after 2 periods of play. Don Taylor along with Gary Volk. Yannick Weber with 2 points, including his first goal of the preseason, showing off the shot Canuck fans, the Canucks themselves, are hoping to see a lot of this season. Yes, Yannick Weber with 1 goal, 3-1, the Canucks, 3-2 rather, but yes, 3-1, the Canucks over Phoenix. We'll have more with Gary Volk in a bit.
John up here and John on the bench now. It's getting easier.
Yes, it is. It is getting easier. And there's the winningest American-born NHL coach. And I know people say, well, Ronnie Wilson, but Ronnie was born in Windsor, Ontario, when his dad was playing with the Detroit Red Wings, and John Tortorella. And you look at this, and it's very impressive in the Stanley Cup, but remember when he first started in the East Coast League? First year there, he won a championship. Then in Rochester, second year in Rochester, win a championship. And then in Tampa, second year in Tampa, win a championship. So maybe the trend will continue.
Those 410 career wins are 28th all-time. 3 behind Jack Adams. And then the next man on the list is Alain Vigneault. 3-1 Canucks as we head to the third period. Sedins and Hansen up front to start the period with Garrison and Bieksa on defense. And they're announcing a scoring change to the Weber goal, giving an assist to Andrew Alberts rather than Ryan Kessler. So Weber from Burrows and Alberts. Yannick Weber doesn't care. He's got a goal and an assist on this, his 25th birthday. Here's Daniel Sedin bringing the puck out with a pass to Jannik Hansen. Slides the puck in and chases after it. Rundblad there first. Hansen gets a piece of him. The puck is sent around for Max Domi. Domi to Verbata at center. Henrik Sedin takes the puck away, tries to get it through for Hansen, but is taken away by David Rundblad. Chris Tanev having a little trouble handling the puck inside his own line, but recovers and gets it over to Alex Edler. Up for Higgins, who was just over the blue line by a hair. And the offside whistle from Von Rode blows play dead. Well, want to remind you the hit show Revolution returns to City, but it's on a new day and a new time. Wednesdays at 8 o'clock, Revolution on City TV.
Oh, a cliffhanger at the end. The power came back for a little while, and there's missiles heading to the couple of cities on the East Coast.
Be still, my heart. Is there a show on that you don't know the plot portion of?
Oh, there's a few. I've never seen Breaking Bad, and I know you and Murph sit there with all the tapes, and I'm going to have to get the DVDs.
1 to go. Chris Brown, pointless in this one, but had been racking them up heading into this game. 5 points in 3 preseason games before this one tonight. Backhanded into Vancouver zone. Edler retrieves it as the rest of his teammates make a change. Edler wrist one in from center. Schlemko clears. Alberts on for Edler. Picks up the puck and dumps it back into the Phoenix zone. Two minutes gone, third period. Gilbert Brulé picks up that puck. Sends it ahead for Korpikoski. Bumped by Alberts as he moved in. Weber after the puck in the corner. 3 Canucks trying to move it ahead. And Alberts gets it through to Santorelli. Up for Shinkaruk. And sidestepping Michael Stone. Shinkaruk appeared to get a piece of the Phoenix defenseman who's shaken up. Now skating slowly back into the play. But Stone's going to head to the bench after that collision with Shinkaruk just outside the Phoenix blue line. Alberts ahead for Tom Sestito, who backhands the puck in. Brad Richardson after it for Vancouver. Bumped by Rundblad. Chipchura knocked down by Sestito as he made a pass. Canucks, Richardson just holds the puck here. Sestito after it along the boards, picked up by Rundblad, who finds Dave Moss. Moss banks the puck ahead to Rob Klinkhammer. Centering pass, knocked away by Bieksa. Now Klinkhammer at the side, and he shot it wide. Trying to go low to the stick side on Luongo. Klinkhammer from the other side. Back to the blue line. Rundblad. Wrist shot. blocked by Sestito. And he settles the puck at center before backhanding into the Phoenix zone. Martin Hanzal plays the puck over the Canucks line. Max Domi, nice spin move. Another nice move. Here's Vrbata taking his pass. Wrist shot blocked. Endler got in front of it. Vrbata holds the puck in. Down for Domi. Quick move to the middle. Domi for Hanzal. Vrbata couldn't pick up the puck, and Daniel Sedin skates to the center. Daniel in on the left wing in front for Hansen. Tripped up by Yandel. Couldn't make good contact with the puck as he went hard to the front. 4 minutes into the third. Mikhail Bottcher. Missed on the short side. Phoenix clears. Albert's over to pick up the puck. Yannick Weber finds Ryan Kessler. Higgins picks up the loose puck and backhands into the Phoenix zone before heading to the bench. Ekman Larsson. That one missed everybody. And it's icing as the puck winds up behind the Vancouver goal line.
Hunter Shinkaruk and Michael Stone. Michael Stone had 5 hits leading the group. And Shinkaruk goes around him, but he's got the hands right in his face. Stone doesn't get the call. Klinkhammer just couldn't get that puck to settle down. And Yannick Hansen gets tripped up by Keith Yandel and doesn't get the call.
Might have lost an edge there.
Jimmy Hendricks over checking.
Got the Stone out. Anytime you go feet first into the boards, it can alter the blade just a bit. Jason Garrison pokes a puck to center. Morris collects. He's moved past the 5-minute mark of the third period. Garrison risks the puck back in, and Greiss misses it behind the net. Ekman Larsson is there. The exit pressuring Korpikoski holds the puck in. Chance in front for, and a rebound score for Santorelli after Horvat was stopped. Mike Santorelli on the backhand gets his second of the preseason to make it 4-1.
And again, the Canucks going hard to the net. Get a rebound. Thomas Greiss would probably like to have this one back because it hit him in the midsection and he was unable to hang on. Horvat cuts to the middle, takes the shot, and Greiss off the chest is unable to absorb the puck. Rebound goes out, and the backhand is by Thomas Greiss.
Shinkaruk was creating a disturbance in front. Don't know if he poked it over, touched the puck before Santorelli got his stick on it. But at 5:22, Mike Santorelli makes it a 3-goal Canuck lead. His strong showing continues. There's a deflected shot that bounced, and Luongo tracked that puck, took it off the chest, and he held on.
Forwards always like that when all 3 members of the line are in on a goal, and that's what that one's going to show. Mike Santorelli, who is last week ended up playing defense as the Canucks ended up with only 4 defensemen, and due to penalties, he ended up playing on the blue line.
Played center in Edmonton and then lining up on the wing in this hockey game. Stock has to be going up with this preseason. Shinkaruk and Horvat get the assists. And here's Hansen on the right wing. Daniel Sedin and Henrik Sedin trying to come up with a puck. Henrik does. Pass for Daniel, intercepted. Hanzal feeds across to Yandel. Now up to center for Vrbata. Henrik Sedin on the back check. Knocked the puck away from it. And Tanev gets it ahead to Hansen. Tried to go rink wide at center for Edler. That was intercepted, and the Coyotes retake control. Six and a half minutes gone in the third period. Here's Rundblad at the blue line. Bodker after the puck on the near side. And a whistle. The Canuck net had been dislodged. Mike Santorelli, the latest goal scorer, and the Canucks are up by 3.
Take the whole family to a game with Canucks Family Night Packs presented by QMFM and Cineplex. Save up to $20 off each ticket. Receive 10% off at the team store. And get a free Cineplex Family Fun Pack complete with 4 movie tickets plus popcorn and drinks at the theater. Visit Canucks.com/Family Nights for more information.
Oh, that tastes good.
Extra butter.
Is there anything you eat without extra butter?
I'm not a big popcorn fan because of the false teeth. You know that. I don't eat popcorn. Everything gets caught under these false teeth from my old goaltending days.
So you make up for the
Yes.
butter part of it with other avenues.
Yeah, it's not popcorn.
Ryan Kessler read that play well, and he's out quickly through center. Trying to get around Bodker. Now after the puck behind the net, Rundblad shoots it to the corner, hit the referee. Higgins down for Kessler. In traffic, he finds Higgins in the corner. Chris Higgins round the net. Pass to Alex Burrows. Bobbled the puck, and Burnett takes it away and skates it out to center. Antoine Burnett checked by Kevin Bieksa, who banks the puck up for Higgins. Michael Stone being pursued by Kessler. Hits him along the boards as Stone passes around for Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Miele tips the puck in, goes after to the corner. Alberts is on him. Puck comes free to Weber. Perfect pass, and Santorelli's in over the Phoenix line. Finds Shinkarik, wrist shot, and handled by Greiss. Now Shinkarik into it in the corner, and it's Stone, who might still be a little upset about that play in the neutral zone a couple shifts ago.
Well, that's it.
Let's go.
Yannick Weber has had a very good game, but I agree with you. That's a reaction from the Shinkarik hit on Stone earlier in this period. Look at Yannick Weber. Carry the puck out of the zone and then make the good pass. Draw some people, create some open ice for Mike Santorelli, and the chance by Shinkarik, and Stone goes after Shinkarik. Mismatch in size.
You're talking about the Weber pass to Santorelli. That was the same combination to set up the opening goal in Edmonton. Just hit him at the perfect moment in the neutral zone so that Santorelli can move in with speed. Santorelli pressuring Yandel. Coyotes get the puck out. Bo Horvat, who's had a strong game, passes back to Alberts. And the puck is sent back into the Phoenix zone. Derek Morris, in the final year of his contract, threw that one to center. Too hot to handle, and an icing call will bring the face-off back down the ice.
John Tortorella has to be happy with the way his team has played, and this is more of his team. The first 3 games, not really the lineup that you would consider even for exhibition games. This one's more like it. Especially the first period. I thought the Canucks played a very good, hard forechecking first period.
Alex Edler's stick broke on that one-time attempt. Patty O'Neill, Johnny on the spot, had a new one ready for him within seconds, and Edler's back into the play. Here's Richardson trying to sneak one in the side. Jet has the pad down, but it's in, and Richardson, hearing about it from the Coyotes.
Well, the referee's going to say the whistle blew. He was pointing to the face-off dot.
Yandel not done with Brad Richardson, who just wasn't going to quit on that puck, and the Coyotes didn't appreciate it. Tom Sestito being escorted to the penalty box.
Here's a look at it. Brad Richardson brings it out, tries to stuff it. Greiss has the leg down, but it slides by relatively quickly. Thomas Greiss. Well, it's a little hard to tell. We could hear the whistle. I thought the referee was pointing to the face-off dot in the corner, but now because of the penalty, it's going to come down deep into the Canuck zone. Tom Sestito is the only one sitting in the penalty box.
Roughing call at 8:49. And the Coyotes, 1 for 4 on the power play, get their 5th opportunity. One timer from the line. Luongo, good reaction to stop that shot from Rundblad. That puck was moving. Rundblad again. Here's Vrbata. Max Domi in front for Vrbata. That pass was disrupted by Ryan Kessler. Intercepting the puck is Alex Edler, and he finds a seam and gets it down the ice. Here's Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Hard pass to Hansel. Gives the puck to Domi. Try to get it through to Hansel. Bieksa broke that up. Vrbata to the blue line. Ekman-Larsson to Rundblad. 2 Canucks on him as he moved down the boards. Here's Ekman-Larsson being watched by Henrik Sedin. And Daniel Sedin intercepts the pass across. Up the ice with Henrik. Daniel to Henrik to the net to Daniel. And the spin pass on the backhand was intercepted.
Looked like the Coyotes were guessing pass all the way. Henrik had a lane to the net.
30 seconds to go in the Phoenix power play. Just over 9.5 minutes remaining in the 3rd period as Andrew Alberts intercepts the puck and gets it off the glass and down the ice. Michael Stone out with the puck. Antoine Brunet to the blue line. Stone near side. Yandel one-timer whistling wide. Brown was in front, creating a disturbance for Luongo. Now a chance for Vermette. Yandel again fakes the shot, cuts left. Yandel still with the puck in front for Bodker. Intercepting was Richardson. Sestito's out of the box. He's after the puck at center, but the Coyotes get there first. Phoenix now 1 for 5 on the power play as Bo Horvat moves in on the right wing. Horvat center, Sestito to the net, scores! Tried to deke and the puck rolled in. He'll take it. It's 5-1.
John, you talked about Bo Horvat having a good game, and he has had a very good game. He's got good puck sense. Look at this head-up play. Hard pass to Tom Sestito, who tried to drag it, and instead it just slid through Thomas Greiss. Great pass by Bo Horvat. Tape to tape, and Sestito finishes off.
Biggest lead of the night. It was already, and it continues to grow. A 4-goal advantage for the Canucks with 8.5 minutes to go in the 3rd. Derek Morris backhands the puck in. Tanev, bodied by Korpikoski. Korpikoski taken down. Horvat upended him. Play goes on. Tanev and Edler combined to check Korpikoski off the puck. Here's Horvat. Checked by Miele, but Tanev able to get the puck out. Here's Morris. Drop pass, but the Coyotes were offside and the whistle blows with just under 8 minutes to go, 3rd period. Bo Horvat a couple of assists, the latest to Tom Sestito, and the Canucks are up by 4.
In this issue of Sportsnet magazine, Send star Bobby Ryan opens up about his childhood, being on the run from the FBI, and how he survived it all. Subscribe now at sportsnet.ca/magazine.
Now look at Hunter Shedkarik going to the net. And that takes the defenseman. That leaves Tom Sestito wide open. And a beautiful pass by Bo Horvat. And Sestito gets a break as it's hooked off his stick and into the net.
Brendan Gaunce onto the ice and into the offensive zone, pressuring David Rundblad. Hansen trying to help out. She takes a turn here with Gaunce and Santorelli. Puck gets behind Kevin Bieksa, but he's able to turn and move it just out. And the whistle blows on the offside. He loves the show so much. John Garrett just wants me to repeat this. It is the hit show Revolution. It's back on City. New day, new time, Wednesdays, 8 o'clock here in the Pacific time zone.
Don't know how they're going to stop the bombs. The power's back on just for a couple of hours. They have to stop. Atlanta is one of the cities that is being bombed as we speak. Philadelphia is another one. I'll have to PVR that. You got a game.
You mean you're not going to tape it like Murph and I do? Here's a chance in front.
Get up the VHS machine.
Here's Max Domi on the right wing. Pass back. Gets by Yandel, and the puck deflects down into the Phoenix zone. 7 minutes to go. That's how far the Canucks are from their first win, but a chance for Domi here on the stretch passing on goal, and Luongo held his ground and made the save. Santorelli sifting through center. To the backhand, trying to cut to the net. That was knocked away by Stone. Vrbata takes his pass and deflects the puck through. Luongo out of his net, leaves for Yannick Weber. The birthday boy ahead to Mike Santorelli. And here's Andrew Alberts. That hit Von Rode, the linesman, forcing the play offside, and the whistle blows.
Chris Tanev does a nice job. This long pass by Derek Morris to Max Domi. And Domi tries to cut to the net, and Tanev, two hands on the stick, doesn't take the penalty and takes Domi down so that he can't pull it to the backhand and try and beat Roberto Luongo.
Showing a replay up on the big screen.
He looks pretty excited about it.
You like that, yeah. Bo Horvat in. Pass for Shinkarik, who takes the puck off the Karen. Pass to the corner, taken away. And the puck thrown forward for Vermette. Antoine Vermette couldn't get the puck over the Vancouver blue line. Shinkarik trying to poke it to the side. Now it comes to Vermette again. Santorelli trying to check him. Pass to Korpikoski, and reaching in was Andrew Alberts to steer that puck over the glass for a whistle. Fourth game of the preseason. Canucks closing in on their first win. They lead by 4 with 6 minutes to go.
Come to an NHL camp. You played in the NHL. You signed a two-way contract. It's noticed me. It's noticed me. And Mike Santorelli in Edmonton noticed me. First couple of minutes of play, takes that pass. Here tonight, go to the net, get a rebound on the backhand and put it away. And Mike Santorelli is making sure that people are noticing it.
He served notice. Canucks back at it tomorrow. We'll be here on Sportsnet. Our coverage starts at 7 o'clock. Canucks and the Sharks for the second time this preseason.
Sharks have whittled down their roster and more like the Sharks.
Here's Henrik Sedin. Steps out the near side. Garrison with the blast. He scores. Put it on a tee for Garrison, and he made no mistake.
And that's one of the things, and the shoot-first attitude of the Canuck defenseman. If teams are going to collapse in front of the net and try and block shots, you better block it, because if you don't, it's going to go in. And Henrik Sedin sets up Jason Garrison. The crowd's there, and Brown can't block it. That's what he's trying to do. Garrison gets it by him, and there's absolutely no chance for Thomas Greiss from there.
6th goal for the Canucks. And Garrison has his first.
Vancouver goal is first of the preseason score.
6 points from the Vancouver blue line in this hockey game. Henrik Sedin, Yannick Hansen get the assists on the 6-1 goal. And now just over 5 minutes remaining in the hockey game.
Garrison is first of the preseason. He's into the between 36
Gilbert Brulé leaves the puck along the boards. And it's brought out by Andy Miele. Vodker from center sends the puck in, and Yannick Weber goes back for Vancouver. Chris Higgins checked at center. Here's Chip Churian on the right wing. Centering pass for Moss was just out of his reach. Now Moss from a sharp angle. Luongo with the pad and the stick count holding the post. Moss again. Had to play the puck to the corner. Klinkhammer gets it behind the goal. Tracks the puck down on the near side. Morris, left point. Yandel. Here's Chipchura. Tried to step through a couple of Canucks. Was checked. Kessler brings the puck to center. He's checked by Keith Yandel, and Chipchura flips it back in, but Yandel was in ahead of the puck. And the whistle blows for the offside. Connected coming up immediately following the game. All the news in the world of sports, plus Don and Gary talking about this game, I bet.
Thanks so much. Just a reminder that Gary Volk, James Cybulski, and myself will have a full post-game show after the Canucks and Coyotes back to Rogers Arena.
Before that, just over 4 minutes of hockey to be played, with the Canucks in a comfortable 6-1 lead. Hunter Shinkaruk, bodied by Brunblad, but the puck gets through to Santorelli. Drop pass, Horvat in front for the exit, but the pass was behind him. Horvat had the puck go over his stick behind the net. Coyotes sent it up the middle, broken up by Santorelli. Shinkaruk tried to set up Horvat, but the puck comes out to center. The exit flips it back in and heads to the bench. 3.5 minutes to go. Hansel after the puck at the Vancouver line, fights out the check of Horvat, cuts in on goal, the centering pass, and Edler got in the way of that puck intended for Radim Vrbata. Shinkaruk at the end of his shift gets the puck in deep and heads off. David Schlemko. Pass deflects to Chris Brown. He couldn't get it by Henrik Sedin. Up ahead for Daniel. Tied up by Schlemko, and Daniel Sedin goes down. Here's Stone for Phoenix. Dumping the puck in. Tanev. Bodied along the boards. Brown trying to center. And that was blocked. Tanev, who took the hit earlier from Korpikoski, comes up with the puck. Can't get it by Stone. Let's go with a long shot wide of the goal. Daniel Sedin ahead to Henrik Sedin. Tried to slide one through for Hansel. That's taken away, and the puck is flipped out by Schlemko. Yannick Weber waiting for the Canucks to finish a change. Moves in with a hard slap shot, and that whistled over top of the net. Vodker picks up that deflected puck. Finds Brulé. Shot attempt blocked by Andrew Alberts, and the puck is cleared out by Sestito. Yandel to Brulé. Couple of moves inside his own blue line, checked by Gauntz. And the Canucks have control of the puck with 2 minutes remaining in the hockey game. Here's Richardson. And puck comes to Sestito. He tips it to the corner. Gets by Brulé. Here's Garrison to Sestito. And he backhands the puck in behind. Morris there to cut it off. Checked by Richardson. Sestito trying to poke the puck in deep. Now gets it again along the boards. Brulé able to intercept and get it by Garrison and out. Here's Jason Garrison in his own zone. Ahead for Ryan Kessler. Puck deflects in to the Phoenix zone. Burrows pressuring Rundblad. Throws a hit in the corner. Centering pass for Higgins didn't get through. Chipchura out with the puck. He finds Ekman Larsson at center. In on the right wing, tips the puck behind the goal. Edler there for Vancouver. The two number 23s battling for the puck. Ekman Larsson able to poke it behind the net for Klinkhammer. Centering pass. Oh, what a stop by Luongo on Moss, and then he stopped the rebound as well. Couple late saves for Roberto Luongo as we move into the final minute of the hockey game. 20 saves on 21 shots for the Vancouver netminder. Chipchura slow to get up in the Vancouver zone as the Canucks move the puck out, and it's played in by Chris Higgins. Chipchura took a punch at Alex Burrows at the Vancouver bench. As he was headed to the Phoenix bench, he reached right in and gave the Canuck a poke. Offside of the Canucks as Shinkarik moved in ahead of Mike Santorelli.
Roberto Luongo, his second start of this preseason, much better in this one positionally, and some great saves. That's when the game was still close. It was 3-1 at that time when Roberto made those saves. And then Michael Bodker right at the start of the second period when Phoenix looked like they could come back. And then just to top it off on David Moss, point blank, stopped him twice.
And they have added that second shot. So 21 saves on 22 shots for Luongo. 15 seconds to go in the game. And fans start to show their appreciation. Another shot wide. And it is preseason. At the end of the day, the results don't mean a whole lot, but John Tortorella has his first win as a Canuck coach as Vancouver knocks off Phoenix 6-1.
And the Canucks, more like the Canuck team with the lineup they had in this one, set the tone early in the first period, had 17 shots on goal, played in the Coyote zone, and looked like they were starting to get that forechecking system that John Tortorella is trying to enforce.
With the stronger lineup, their most complete effort of the preseason, and Roberto Luongo gets the win, stopping 21 shots. 6-1 the final, the Canucks over Phoenix. Here's Dan Murphy.